be doing something a little bit different because we'll be talking about subs, dubs, and why translating something is actually very hard. I know, that seems pretty basic, but let me just clarify how hard. The reason anime translations can come across very cringy can start culturally, believe it or not. The people in the United Bacon of Ameriburger don't call a sibling older brother, but in Japan, that's much more common. And there are a bunch of little things like that throughout speech will make things come across very strange when you're watching it from another culture and not keeping in mind the differences that are going to come with it. Also, the skirts aren't actually short most of the time. The girls will roll up the top to make them look shorter, and that's usually against dress code. Gym bloomers are all but extinct. No, you can't legally buy underage used panties. There are machines selling panties that have the English word used on them, but they're banking on you not knowing what the Japanese says on the machine and that they are simulated used. You can, however, buy refrigerated clean panties in the summer months, and that makes sense. But now for controversy. Subs or doms? They're dubs. Subs or dubs. Honestly, either can be done well, and, you know, before the learn the multitask folks come in, let's be clear, your eyes can only be pointed at so much at once. I don't care how fast your eyes move or how acute they are, you're missing something if you use subs and don't speak the language. But so long as the dubs are done well, and that's not always possible, we'll go into that later, I don't mind them. My issue with some, or most, dubs is when they make changes to make a mark on a show and screw something up. Making a proper dub that doesn't hurt to watch is hard enough without Funimation sifting in their own politics, and missing the point of half the characters along the way. And while I'm sure I'm going to piss off some of the big dub fans, for more than just cultural reasons, you are going to lose something with the dub. Most notably is the fact that when they are not speaking Japanese, they are speaking aloud terrible puns that feel forced. Now in the subs, you are acutely aware that the words spoken are not being accurately translated, but hearing it aloud is a whole new level of pain. And often the VA budget is, well, kind of light in the dubs, and it shows. But back to translations. Someone coming in for half of a sentence is very different in Japanese than in English. Mishearing something, out of context statements. Dubs have to match not only the context and words, but the animation to some degree as well. And that's not easy. Ekidesu, or more casually pronounced ekides, is 4 syllables if you pronounce each one individually in Japanese, and translates to, it's a train station, which requires a bit more lip movement if you had not noticed. Vice versa, there are English terms that take very few words, and their Japanese equivalent requires almost twice as many syllables, or sometimes an entire extra sentence to say. Sometimes the words just aren't there. And this next part applies to subs and dubs. Fun fact, the Japanese have a lot of puns in their shows. This is because they have a lot of homophones, which are words that sound the same but have different meanings. Try this statement on for size. Kami desu ka? Now depending on tone and kanji, that could mean 3 rather different things. It could mean, is it paper? Fair enough, might be canvas, who knows? Innocent question. Is it hair? Well, that's a tad creepy, probably a little more urgent of a question now, huh? Or, is it God? This is probably a time-sensitive question. Add in writing, like pieces of a sentence not being fully in context, and it gets really fun. This is densha. This is jitensha. This alone, however, at the end of both of them, is kuruma. But if densha is a train and a subway is a train underground, then it should involve shita, which is under. And for some reason it shares none of the kanji from train, but it does have the kanji for shita in there. And therefore it is said as chikatetsu. Yeah, it's not easy to learn this language. Subs do have the upper hand in this because you're already reading a whole bunch, so adding editor's notes at the bottom of the screen would allow you to explain various things. Unless, of course, you're talking about mahjong, in which case I still have no fucking clue what any of this means. Not to mention they could space out longer words much easier without having to worry about how long the animation is going to last. But there's a limit to how well that can translate. For instance, if you don't speak the language, it does not matter whether or not they add an editor's note explaining how this kanji could be used, unless they give away the entire twist of what it's supposed to mean. People who don't speak the language are not going to be able to understand it. Japanese is considered one of the furthest from English in terms of sentence structure. It shares very few words, and it takes the longest out of most languages to learn if English was your first language. But you don't want to learn the language and accepted the detriments of subs. They didn't want to have to split their focus and accepted the detriments of dubs. It's not reasonable for those learning the language to say, lol, just learn it, and it's equally unreasonable to say, just read faster. But every change from the original changes it in ways that you can't predict, and you can't pretend it's the exact same experience. And translating properly is hard, especially if you actively sabotage yourself along the way. God, you know, I kicked the habit of getting angry at Disney, and now I'm just getting angry at Funimation everywhere. I know it's not easy, but I won't forgive them for doing it stupid. Hopefully this sheds some light onto anime translation and why people say, depending on if you speak it, watch it subbed, or watch it dubbed, it can be a very different experience. And maybe it helped you appreciate people like the VTuber Coregiali, who speaks 3 going on 4 languages now. If there's still anyone watching my channel who believes that VTubers aren't putting any effort into their careers, go learn a couple languages and tell me you didn't have to put effort in. Anyway, like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, and let me know subs or dubs, and why. This isn't optional. We know what you did, and we will tell the authorities. And I'm sure there'll be haters because I brought up a VTuber, but fuck you, it's actually relevant this time. So at least be entertainingly angry.